America owes trillions of dollars. So here is a simple question a lot of people ask. Why doesn't the United States just print more money and pay it all off? It sounds easy, right? But the reality is far more dangerous. In this video, we're going to break down how money really works, why printing it causes huge problems, and what would actually happen if the US government tried to do it. At first glance, printing money to pay off debt seems like a perfect solution. I mean, the US government controls its own currency, the dollar. It has the power to create more of it. We can't do that with our own household budgets, but a government can. So why not just fire up the printing presses, create trillions of new dollars, and wipe the national debt clean? The idea feels intuitive. You owe money, you have the ability to make money, so you make the money and pay the debt. Problem solved. But it's not that simple. The entire system is built on one fragile thing: trust. Money only has value because we all collectively agree that it does. The moment that trust shatters, the entire economic system starts to crumble. And printing money is the fastest way to break that trust. So, what actually happens when you print too much money? First, you need to understand that printing money does not create real wealth. Real wealth comes from tangible things: the goods we produce, the services we offer, our productivity, and our innovation. Wealth is the sum of everything a country actually makes and does. Money is just a tool we use to trade that wealth. Now, imagine you suddenly double the amount of money in the economy. But the amount of stuff to buy, food, houses, services stays exactly the same. What happens? You have more money chasing the same amount of goods. That means prices for everything go up. This is inflation. Your groceries cost more. Your rent gets more expensive. Filling up your car becomes a nightmare. And the money you've worked so hard to save is suddenly worth less. In extreme cases, this leads to something called hyperinflation. We've seen this happen throughout history. In Germany during the 1920s, people were taking wheelbarrows full of cash just to buy a loaf of bread. The government had printed money to pay off war debts, and the currency became worthless. More recently, we saw it in Zimbabwe in the 2000s, where inflation reached such absurd levels that they were printing $100 trillion bills. And in Venezuela, the government printed massive amounts of money to cover its spending, which led to economic collapse, widespread poverty, and a currency that lost almost all its value. In every one of these cases, the story is the same. The government tried to solve its debt problems by printing money. And in doing so, it destroyed its own currency and its economy. This brings us to a really important concept. Inflation is basically a hidden tax. It quietly steals your purchasing power without you ever seeing a direct deduction from your bank account. Let's say you have $100 saved up. If inflation causes prices to double over a few years, that $100 can now only buy what $50 could before. Your savings have been cut in half, in terms of what they can actually get you. Your paycheck might stay the same, but it buys you less and less each month. So when a government prints money, it isn't actually eliminating debt. It's just shifting the cost onto everyone who holds that currency, especially ordinary people and savers. The debt on the government's books might look smaller, but the real cost is paid by citizens through higher prices and devalued savings. That SYETS, called a hidden tax, it takes your wealth without ever sending you a bill. So, Who is in charge of all this? In the United States, Congress doesn't just walk over to a printer and press a button. The control of the money supply is handled by the Federal Reserve, often called the Fed. The Fed's main job is to keep the economy stable. It does this by managing the money supply, setting interest rates, and trying to keep inflation at a target level, usually around 2%. The reason the Federal Reserve is designed to be independent from politicians is to prevent exactly what we've been talking about. Imagine if politicians could print unlimited money whenever they wanted to fund projects or pay off debts, especially before an election. The temptation would be irresistible. Debt would explode, inflation would spiral out of control, and nobody would have any confidence left in the US dollar. This independence is a crucial safeguard for the economy. But let's play out the hypothetical. What if the US government ignored all these warnings and decided to print trillions of dollars to pay off the national debt anyway? The immediate effect would be a massive surge in inflation, far beyond what we've seen in recent years. To fight this, the Federal Reserve would be forced to raise interest rates dramatically. That means mortgages, car loans, and credit card debt would become incredibly expensive, likely triggering a deep recession. International investors who hold US debt would see the value of their holdings plummet. They'd lose confidence and start selling off US bonds, causing the dollar to weaken on the global stage. A weaker dollar makes imported goods more expensive, fueling even more inflation. And critically, it would become much, much harder and more expensive for the US to borrow money in the future. Ironically, by trying to magically erase the debt, the government would make its debt problem even worse. So if printing money is off the table, how does the US actually handle its massive debt? Well, it's a constant balancing act. The primary way is through economic growth. If the country's economy grows faster than its debt, the debt becomes more manageable over time as a percentage of the total economy. The government also collects taxes to fund its operations and pay interest on the debt. And, of course, it issues new debt in the form of treasury bonds. People, companies, and even other countries buy these bonds, essentially loaning money to the US government with the promise of being paid back with interest. As long as the world has confidence in the US government's ability to pay its debts, this system can continue. It's a complex cycle that relies on stability, growth, and trust. So, to wrap it all up, why doesn't the US just print money to pay off its debt? Because printing money doesn't create real wealth. It just creates inflation, which acts as a hidden tax that hurts everyday people the most. It erodes savings, destroys confidence in the currency, and ultimately risks collapsing the entire economic system. Printing money isn't a magical solution. It's a shortcut to an economic disaster. The national debt is a complicated issue, but now you know the answer isn't as simple as just printing more cash. If this video helped you understand how money really works, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might find it useful. And let me know in the comments, what do you think governments should do about their debt? Thanks for watching.